Did the president cave? Let's talk about it. In his latest battle with the Democrats over border wall funding, did Trump cave? The short answer is yes. I know this may be triggering to some, but the president isn't incapable of making mistakes. I would say claiming the shutdown like he did in December while he was negotiating with Chuck and Nancy at the White House didn't do him any favors when it came time to place blame for this debacle. This circumstance is likely what did him in. Now, I have a few questions. Can somebody tell me why Trump didn't fight Paul Ryan last year to get funding for the wall? Why didn't he shut down the government and go after Mitch and Ryan like he did Nancy and Schumer? Now, I understand that Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are Republicans, and maybe that colored his judgment a little bit on the matter. There are some more positive things to consider. This shutdown was being overwhelmingly blamed on Donald Trump. The new plan to negotiate during this 3-week CR may just be the thing to shift the blame back towards the Democrats if a new shutdown were to take place. The optics of the president seemingly conceding to certain aspects of their demands and them also continuing to block the State of the Union speech could be the optics needed to shift that blame. It's likely this whole thing is a ploy to set up a reason for Trump to institute the national emergency in the first place. I don't doubt that Trump understands the implications for not securing this wall and getting the funding for it. Failure to build the wall, the centerpiece of the Trump agenda, would likely result in a tough re-election in 2020. That's not to say Trump voters would en masse vote for open borders Democrats, but a fair portion of supporters are likely to sit out this election completely if their goals are not met. Most people probably look at it and say, well, it doesn't matter either way. We didn't get the wall, so all these politicians are the same and Trump's just a politician, and they'll just stay at home. Now, whether or not this tosses the election for Trump, if he doesn't get, if this instance were to take place, I don't know. That's anyone's guess. Look, I support this president, and I recognize that he's managed to enact a broad section of his agenda. The amount that's been accomplished by this administration is historic. Also, understand that all of this would be for nothing if the border isn't secure. My prediction is Trump will ultimately be forced to declare a national emergency, and that executive action is likely to be tied up in the courts for the foreseeable future. So I could see him saying, look, I tried to negotiate with the Democrats and it didn't work. So now I'm declaring a national emergency, and they already got these activists waiting. These activists, they're waiting in the courts, and they'll just pop out and they'll find an activist federal judge, and he'll put a stay on it, and we'll end up fighting into the courts probably until 2020, maybe beyond. Who knows? Best case scenario, they come up with some sort of solution during the negotiations, and that's the rosiest way to look at it, because look, Democrats are still holding firm that they're not going to give the money for the wall. Like most things with Donald Trump, most fights he has, it's usually for all the marbles, and this is not different. This fight right here is, I wouldn't say it's do or die. Does a Trump presidency go on without a wall in 2020? I'd say his chances are a lot lower of winning in 2020 if he doesn't have the wall. I wouldn't say it's an automatic loss, because we don't know what's going to happen between then and now. So I wouldn't count him out. He's shown himself to be pretty adept at surviving a lot of things that a lot of politicians have been able to survive, at least that we've seen so far. It's a tough loss. I mean, even when you look at the past couple of weeks, there's been some pretty big wins for exposing the media. And, when you look at the Covington Catholic situation where the media was completely exposed for what they are, and fake news was exposed and laid bare for the public to see. And then you look at the BuzzFeed story before that, blowing up in the media's face within 24 hours, blown up by none other than the Mueller team in themselves. And then you have the optics of a Trump operative, Roger Stone, pretty much being perp walked in front of CNN. Somehow CNN gets tipped off that 30 FBI agents are going to be showing up to Roger Stone's house to serve a warrant for his arrest. They just so happen to be there, just magically. You have a situation with that where possible collusion. I mean, we do know that the Mueller team at times has been accused of leaking to the press. I don't even think it was a Mueller team at this point. My personal thoughts are, I think this was the FBI leaking. And you got to think about that. I mean, the FBI, we just put a guy in there. Trump just picked a guy to put in there that he thought was going to be a loyalist, and now we have this. So, what good is it at this point? Not to be negative, but just to take a step back, just think about the optics of that with the Roger Stone thing, and then the Covington kids thing, and then the BuzzFeed thing. So when you look at all those three things, these are, I would call them positive narratives for the administration. So to have that and then turn around and lose on the shutdown is, it's a major disappointment. But if you follow politics, and I think what it is that a lot of times is there are a lot of people that haven't followed politics their whole lives, and following this Trump administration is the first time some of these people have had a chance to follow any sort of politics. So the letdowns are even bigger, and things are, they tend to fall more easily for the game that if we lose this, we lose everything forever. When they don't realize that a lot of times there's always tomorrow, and there'll always be tomorrow. As long as America is still in existence, there'll always be a day where we can fight to get the wall. It's just another day we're going to fight. So as far as this fight is concerned, this is just a lost battle. The war isn't over. Also, another angle to think about is that the Congress never wanted the wall. And the reason I asked that question earlier, saying that why didn't Trump fight Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, is because I think that Mitch McConnell told him, honestly, I 100% believe this. I think Mitch McConnell told him that he didn't have the votes to get wall funding. I don't think there are votes, and I don't think there are enough votes in the Senate on the Republican side. And I think there are probably, back then, I would say there were six to eight people that would be a no vote for giving the original price tag $25 billion. I think that there were at least 6 to 8 Republicans that would have voted no on that. I think that right now, as we stand with the new Senate in there, I think that there will probably be 4 to 5, votes that would vote no on a border wall if it were laid on the floor today in the Senate. That's just my personal opinion. So I don't think the votes were ever there, and I think the fact that they didn't want to expose that they didn't want to expose that rift in the Republican Party, and that's not an out for Trump. That's not. I'm not saying that's the reason why he didn't fight. I'm thinking that was a factor, and I've always suspected that was a factor. And if you think about it, it's better to fight Democrats on this than it is to fight Republicans. I would say that, just to back up, I would say that from maybe if you were in the White House, I could see someone having that thought process. Now, would they wait so long, and would they anticipate the House flipping and all these other things in order to have that fight? I don't think so. But I could see someone making that calculation that it's better to see the president fighting Democrats than it is to see the president fighting Republicans. Me personally, I don't care either way. Fight them all. He should have fought them every step of the way. And I think that was a I think that was a mistake strategically on the president's part. And I do understand that he's trying to get judges put through. He's trying to get a lot of other policy things put through, and to lose a portion of the Senate that you need to do some of those other things in order to fight the wall, or maybe to stop funding Planned Parenthood or some of these other things, that those things were sacrificed. Those couple of things were sacrificed in these budgets in order to get the deals through, in order to get the judges through, in order to get the people confirmed, and all these other things, and not make bad blood. And he still needs the support of the Senate to fight against impeachment and things like that. They still have investigations going on in Russia on these intel committees and things like that, and they can make a life of living hell if they were enemies. So I think the calculation was made early was to have a light touch when it comes to these kind of things when it was under Republican control, and now that it's under Democrat control, now we're free to shut down the government. Now we're free to do all these things. And also, it's you can't rule out the fact that a lot of people have left that they said held Trump back as far as doing things like this. You got to think about John Kelly, the role he would have played in something like this. He probably would have told him not to do it. I mean, I would imagine he was the main one of the president's here saying, look, you can't fight the Congress on this, the wall funding and the Planned Parenthood and all these other things, and raising the debt limit, when the president, all he wanted to do was cut. So, but at the end of the day, you're an executive. The buck stops with you. But this is just me taking a step back and just looking at the big picture and trying to navigate this thing in my mind, how I think about it, and how this actual thing, how the president came to cave, and how we got to this point. There were some mistakes. I would say that, would I trade the convenience of getting all these other things done that we've got done, the historic amount of things that have gotten done, for these things over here, these couple of things like Planned Parenthood funding and the wall, because those are the two main things? I don't know. I mean, I'm not there. I can't say what I would do. These things, these things aren't simple. All these things have nuance to them. All these things are a little bit of give and take. Even with the Republican controlled Congress, there's a lot of give and take. I mean, if you take a step back and just look at nominations, I mean, look at Jim Bridenstine getting chosen to head up NASA. That was a big thing because senators from Florida usually have a big say in who has the secretary position of NASA, because NASA's so rooted in the Florida economy. So even just that was a big thing, trying to get them to let Bridenstine in there. So when you look at that, there had to be deals made to work around that with Marco Rubio and the Democrat senator who's no longer the senator there. I can't remember his name. But I mean, these things are, every little thing that's done, there's always a give and take, and there's always negotiations with other people who are the cross section of these things. And yeah, you can just say that, well, he could just do it. He's the president. He can go it alone. But the thing is, these are votes, and these are people that you want to have a cordial relationship with them. You don't want to have enemy. You don't want to make an enemy out of somebody that for things that are trivial, or for things that could be considered trivial in the grand scheme when you look at the big picture. So I would say in a lot of ways this is a messy situation. It's not as simple as a lot of people think. And for a lot of people that are just getting into paying attention to politics, it's hard for them to see why you can't just turn someone around at the border and push them back across. They don't understand all the nuances that go along with someone just walking across the border and saying, I want to claim asylum. I don't feel safe in my country. They don't understand all the implications that come with phrasing something in that way. And until you paid attention to all these different things and understand how the law works, understand how different treaties work, and understand how Congress works, and understand how all these different dynamics intersect with each other, then you could probably understand why things just don't happen like snap of a finger. You know, why Trump just can't do things. So, like I said before, my prediction is the president will declare a national emergency. He will have no other choice. He'll say, look, I compromised. I compromised. I brought the government back up. I compromised more. I negotiated more. They refused to do anything, even accept things that I offered to them in return. I even lowered my price. I even let her cancel the State of the Union. I did all these things, and they still just won't do it. So I'm declaring I'm declaring a national emergency, and they have one of their left wing judges pop up. He orders a stay, and there we go. And that's what I think is going to happen. And I don't want to pour cold water on this for anybody, and I don't want anyone to feel, it doesn't really matter what you feel. This is what's likely to happen. If it happened other ways, that's fine. There are a million other ways this could happen, but the most likely outcome is going to be this. So it'll be Trump's job to continue to make the case for the wall, and I'm sure he'll continue to do that. And it will be the Congress's job to do their part and negotiate in good faith. And if everyone plays their part, then maybe we will get a deal. But like I said before, we are likely headed for either a shutdown or a national emergency. Well, look, that was the end of that. I know this was a short episode and we kind of didn't go into too much. I just wanted to give my thoughts on this whole Trump caving debacle. And like I said before, I think the president caved. Anyway, till next time, peace.